Hello, Planet Earth. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. We're at IDK. My BFF Jill, 730. I'm Preston O. Young, wishing you warm salutations and congratulations as always. You've made your way to the Buffington Post. Today we're going to take a break from Buffy, and it's time to review episode 7 from season 5 of Game of Thrones, titled The Gift. Here we go.
This is not a game for slackers. There are no gimmies, no do-overs, no lifelines, no hints. You play as a team, but be ready to betray everyone to be rich. The weak of will, the unsteady, the ones who make excuses, all will leave with nothing. And if you fail, I will tell the whole world you are the weakest link. Goodbye.
Alright, so the episode kicks off, and basically Jon and Tormund and some other wildling folk are going to collect the wildlings from Hearthome, and yeah, we're going to see how that works out. Our first gift of the night is given from Sam to Jon. He gives him the dragon glass blade that he used to kill the other, the White Walker. So yeah, we'll see how that goes down. I'm pretty sure that's going to come in handy later. We don't just give obsidian blades to people for nothing. Okay, so I want to talk about Tyrion and Jorah, because the more I think about it, the more it doesn't really make sense. I mean, what is Jorah's plan? When he grabbed Tyrion, he didn't know that there was a bounty on his head. All he knew was that he was a Lannister. And I don't really get what Jorah's idea of what he can do with Tyrion was from the get-go. How is he a good bargaining chip? It's not like the Lannisters, even if, all this crazy cray weren't going down in King's Landing, it's not like they're going to pay a Targaryen for Tyrion. If Jorah knows anything, he probably knows that Tyrion's not very well liked all over the Seven Kingdoms, even before everything from Clash of Kings. So, don't really know what the what is with that. But it's just so confusing to me. I don't understand what Jorah really thinks he's going to gain out of Tyrion. I mean, as show watchers, we know Tyrion well enough to know that he is a very valuable asset to Daenerys, not as a bargaining chip or anything like that, just because of how he understands people and how he understands how to run shit. So I'm just a little meh with this whole Jorah and Tyrion thing. They've had a few good moments, but I'm just not sold on Jorah's logic, if you know what I mean. So anyway, bye Mr. Echo, because Jorah gets totally sold off to some guy after Mr. Echo makes up some stories about how great Jorah is at fighting, and this guy is going to send him into the pits. Well, Tyrion doesn't like the idea of being separated from Jorah because he's kind of his only friend, and they had a plan together, sort of. So whatever, he convinces Home Dude that he's a fighting imp, and, he gets his way into Meereen with Jorah. So we have this really nice scene with Daenerys and Daario. And I just want to say, Daenerys, why are your eyebrows brown? Okay, I dyed my hair red last week, and I dyed my eyebrows to match so I didn't look foolish. So, same with Cersei. She's got this golden hair and these brown-ass eyebrows. I don't understand why they can't dye the eyebrows, or at least put eyebrow wigs on you. You look foolish. Has anybody else noticed this? They got this white hair, the Targaryens, and black-ass fucking eyebrows. It annoys the shit out of me. Anyway, so Dany and Daario have this really great moment in the bed together. They're cuddling, and he's kind of jealous about this whole Hizdahr situation, and Dany getting married, and he says, why don't you just marry me? She says, oh, I can't do that, silly. And he says, you're the queen, you can do what you want. Why be queen if you can't just do whatever? And she says, well, and Daenerys is smart. She's got these dragons, like I said, and she's got all of this responsibility. She can do whatever she wants, but what should she do? What's the right thing to do? It's something that's going to take her a long time to really figure out, and getting to that point with Dany is really fun. Basically, she's like, I'm not free to do what I want, and he says, in a city where you freed everybody, you're the only slave that I can see. So Daenerys is wrestling with these ideas, and Daario's like, why don't you just round up all the slave masters when the pits open and just cut off all their fucking heads in front of everybody? And she says, I'm not a butcher. He says, well, you're either a butcher or you're going to be meat. So Daenerys is wrestling with this idea that she has freed these slaves and she's opening up the fighting pits, but, the thing is, she's right. She has a reason to feel like things aren't the way that they should be because we're seeing people being sold into slavery. And the people who were at the slave auction, these guys were dressed up like the highborns in Meereen. And so clearly slavery is still going on right under her nose, and she's powerless to stop it, basically. And she's not powerless to stop it at the same time. Dario said, you can round them all up. Fucking set your dragons out there. But she won't do it. She wants to be a diplomat and not just a tyrant. So, it sucks. So anyway, we get this, qualifying round at the pre-pits. They're getting everybody ready to get into the pits. If you survive, you get to go. So Daenerys is there with Hizdahr, and it's unexpected, and so the slave master guy is like, oh fuck, we gotta whip these guys into shape real quick. So this one, crazy motherfucker, he's winning the little pre-pit fight, and Dany does not like it. She's not down with this. There's a thing in the books where she's like, oh, I'm just a young girl, and I'm unskilled in the ways of war. And she plays it off as she's being very coy, and she's usually, about to lay down some heavy shit after she says that line. But it's because she's seen wars. She's seen the way the Dothraki existed, and she doesn't like violence and rapery and all this awfulness. And so Dany is really queasy about this whole situation, and so when Jorah realizes that she's there, he comes out and he basically just incapacitates everybody. He doesn't kill anyone because Dany doesn't like that. And she responds to this. She's like, oh, I could like this if there wasn't so much killing. So he unmasks himself, and I love that she was like, fucking get him out of my sight and go. I told you to stay away from here. And he gives her the gift of Tyrion. Tyrion comes out, somebody had set him free with this great, nice arak. And yeah, this is gonna be great. Tyrion and Dany has never met anyone like Tyrion, and this is why it's really exciting. Despite the logic behind Jorah taking him, it's really exciting because nobody's really met anyone like Tyrion, and Tyrion and Dany are going to hit it off, and they're going to bounce some serious, strong ideas off of one another, and I really like this. And I wonder if Hizdahr is going to get left in the dust after Dany realizes that she can have somebody talking in her ear. So we'll see how that goes, but I'm pretty sure she's going to marry Hizdahr. Okay, so we go down Dorne, and we see that Jaime is being kept in a nicer cell, or not even a cell, than our Bronn and the Sand Snakes, but he's being kept under guard, and they bring in Myrcella. And Myrcella, I don't know, they haven't really done much with the actress so far, but does anybody else think she's made of wood? She, the whole time, just stood there with her arms crossed, and I get that that's really great from an editing perspective, because you don't want to be in this motion in one shot and over here in a different shot when they try to sync it up later, but this just seemed a little too safe for me. I understand that she feels at home there, and Jaime's kind of somebody she hasn't really seen in about 3 or 4 years, and so I get it, but the main point that we get out of this is Myrcella says, you don't know me. I'm here to stay, and you come in here and tell me things, but you don't know who I am. And it's kind of sad for Jaime, because in the books, he doesn't think about his children very often. He thinks about Cersei a lot, but his children are almost an afterthought to him constantly. Because, he was raised having to treat them like his niece and nephews. Whereas now that Robert is out of the picture and a lot of people really know about it, we're getting the idea that Myrcella either doesn't know or she's not willing to acknowledge it. But either way, she brings up a good point. He does not know her. He is a stranger pretty much to her. And I'm wondering what Prince Doran wants to do with Jaime. This is so different from the books. The stuff without Arianne, the stuff without Quentyn. It's really scary that the whole Dornish ideas are just being thrown away in the show. But we do get some redeeming qualities out of the Sand Snakes in this episode. I almost said issue, huh? So down in the cells, Bronn is finishing his song, The Dornishman's Wife, and it's really nice. Tyene gives him a little clap, and it's pretty cute. And whenever they start talking, Tyene and Bronn start to have this conversation, whatever, talking about, he was talking about women, not you guys. So anyway, she says, "Oh, I'm the most beautiful woman in the world," and I thought she was Tyene, but since we're on HBO, she's Titsine, right? So she starts showing him her tits after he's talking about how his arm doesn't hurt, and so basically stands up and he's watching her disrobe, and she gets his heart racing, she gets his blood pumping, and she says, "Oh, how's your arm now?" And so basically, she knows how to work her poisons into a man's system. So, whatever, she's talking about how she had poisoned him with her dagger, like we all figured she had. And she brings up Ashai. Martin has said that we're not going to see Ashai in the books, question mark. But I think the show would be remiss not to go to Ashai, especially after you just kicked Valyria in the balls when you did that. So if you're going to do that, why not go to Ashai? But anyway... So yeah, we get this poison from Ashai, the long farewell, and, it's gonna slowly kill Bronn. But she gives him an antidote, and I think one of the funniest moments from this episode was the fact that Nymeria, when Tyene was kind of disrobing, she was the audience. She was just sighing and rolling her eyes into the back of her head, like, really, we're on HBO, so we have to have the tits, okay. I really liked that. I felt like that was kind of a nod at the fans and everybody who's like, every episode they had to show her some tits. So yeah, she gives him the antidote after he proclaims that she's the most beautiful woman in the world. But why keep him alive? I can see maybe if they wanted to use him for something later on, but I don't know what the Sand Snake's ultimate goal is, really. I mean, it's kind of been dumb, and this is the first episode where they've actually seemed like people. Even if they're sexy, stripping in jail people, at least they're people. Right? So, yay, sand snakes. Okay, so Maester Aemon. This Maester Aemon, he's dying, and he's kind of in and out of reality a little bit. He's calling out for Egg, who's, Aegon. And I really liked this. I like that we got to spend a little bit more time with Maester Aemon before he died. They didn't send Sam and Gilly and the baby and Maester Aemon to, Braavos and then to Old Town. And so I think rather than having him die like on the road to Old Town, because I'm pretty sure that Sam and Gilly and the baby are going to have to go pretty soon, it was nice to have him die at the Wall because, this is something that he gave up his whole life for. To be here at the Wall with his maester's chain and his black cloak. He denied the crown and all this good stuff. It was very nice to have him at the Wall dying as opposed to on a ship outside of Old Town dying. It was really nice. I like that Sam stayed there with Gilly, with Maester Aemon because of everything that Aemon had done for Sam. It's very nice. And at the funeral, Alistair Thorne's like, "Hey dude, you're losing all your friends." And yeah, he is, and so is Gilly. Gilly's totally, attacked by two men of the Night's Watch to try and rape her after they kind of insult her looks. They're like, "Oh, are you pretty, or are you just pretty because you're the cutest girl up here?" Sam comes in, tries to defend her honor, but he gets his ass totally kicked. Ah, poor Sam. They were just smearing the queer with him. He gets up, though. Good for him. He gets up and he's like, I'm here. I'm gonna defend her honor. But then Ghost comes in, and this is really important because Jon did not take Ghost with him. And I guess it's a good thing for Sam and Gilly, but I don't think that's going to bode too well for Jon later on. Ghost, we need to keep our wolves with us if you didn't learn anything from the Red Wedding. Yeah. So then later on with Sam and Gilly in the bed, and it was kind of sweet the way that Gilly was like, "Am I hurting you?" And then bounce, chicka, wah, wah. Yeah, they're getting it on up at the wall, man. Good for Sam and Gilly. Aemon told Gilly that she needs to take the baby south and soon before it's too late. So hopefully we're going to go to Old Town at the end of the season. I think that's where Sam and Gilly are going to be headed off to before season 6 begins. Oh, Sansa. So this has been happening to Sansa every night. Clearly, some time has passed, and Ramsay has been coming in and doing this to Sansa. Now, there's been a lot of discussion about Sansa and Ramsay and what went down and what we're supposed to call it and all this good stuff. Now, I don't want any hate or anything like that, but here's the way you have to look at it from Sansa's perspective. Sansa knew what she was getting into. She told Peter, "Okay, I'll go with you and do this revenge thing." She agreed to marry Ramsay. She began to take off her clothes on their wedding night, and Ramsay just wanted it to happen a bit faster and more violently. So, whether you can say that Sansa gave herself to Ramsay is... She did. She was about to anyway. But he took it and made it into this violent thing, which happens a lot in Westeros. Now, what makes it rape is the fact that he is going to let her know that he is going to have Theon watch this violent sexual encounter. And it's also rape because he's making Theon watch. And rape, the word, whatever, but the difference is the fact that these people are being exposed to one another, and that Sansa is being exposed to Theon. It would be one thing if he did this to her without making a mockery of her. The exhibitionist quality to it is what makes it completely unacceptable, leaving the violence aside. I mean, violent sex is its own thing, whatever, but putting her in the position to say, not only am I going to take your virginity, and not only am I going to make it unpleasant for you, I'm going to put you on display, and I'm going to completely demoralize you. That's where it falls into rape territory, because of this third-party perspective. And that's all I'm going to say about that. But this has been happening to Sansa every night, and she's got bruises on her, and she reaches out to Theon, and Theon is going to help her. But then this motherfucker is a turncloak to hell and back. I cannot stand this shit. Sansa is like, you're Theon Greyjoy. Remember who you are. Remember. And no, he's so brainwashed and so completely afraid of Ramsay that he just goes and tells exactly what's going on. So later on, we pick up, and Sansa gets a few jibes in, and, she picks up like a corkscrew or something. Something good for her. And she picks up something while she's talking to Ramsay, and like I said, she gets some jibes in. She's like, oh, well, what's going to happen when your baby brother's born, because you're a bastard, and trueborns always have the upper hand. And he says, well, I've been legitimized. And she says, yeah, you've been legitimized by a bastard. And he says, yeah, well, bastards are making their way up in the world. And he mentions Jon being the Lord Commander of the Night's Watch. And this is interesting because Sansa in the books, she looks down on Jon. She doesn't necessarily look down on him, but she doesn't treat him as an equal, that's for damn sure. She sees Robb and Arya and Bran and Rickon as her siblings, and Jon as her father's bastard. She never treats Jon with any kind of equality, and she kind of just accepts that he is a bastard and things are different for him because that's the way things are. And this is where we see that Sansa is thinking about Jon. She's had to pose as a bastard, and now she's being treated like a second-class citizen, which is kind of what womanhood is in the Seven Kingdoms anyway. But, she can finally relate with Jon as far as being treated like an outsider and being a stranger in your own home. That's how Jon grew up, being a stranger in Winterfell, not having the rights and privileges that Robb and Bran and Sansa and Arya and Rickon have by rights. And so this is neat. This is going to hopefully plant a seed in Sansa's mind that she has a friend in the high place. So after Ramsay and Sansa have this exchange, he's like, oh, your friends in the north, they get flayed and hung up, and she was a good old bird. She didn't give up whoever's trying to help you. But, hey, Brienne, nice job at protecting Sansa. I mean, like I said, I get that Brienne can't just charge in, but in the books, Brienne is running around in circles on this wild goose chase. She really has no idea where Sansa is, but now she knows exactly where she is, and she's not doing anything. It's very un-Brienne, and I get that she doesn't have any friends inside of Winterfell right now, but it seems very un-Brienne to just be sitting with her thumbs up her ass, waiting for some candle. Go and light a candle your damn self. Like, handle some stuff. You want to know if Sansa's in trouble? She's in trouble. She's surrounded by Boltons. That should be enough reason for you to go in and get her. So, I don't understand this. Sansa's horrified to see this old lady of the north all bloody and nasty, and she's realizing that she's getting people hurt. And the people that she's trusting are turning on her again. And so Ramsay's like, now go to your room, ho. So Olenna and the High Sparrow. This was a really, really fun exchange. I love Olenna, you know, my best friend in the world. She she just comes in and she talks to people and she knows exactly what to say to people. And basically, she comes in and she and the High Sparrow are sparring back and forth about like who's got decency and who's got respect for the gods. And, you know, they're both like, we're old. And it was really nice. I thought that they were going to kind of bond a little bit, but Olenna, she's used to buying people. She's used to saying, what do you want? How can I give it to you? And the High Sparrow, he just can't be bought. He says the Father's going to judge us all. And Olenna says, well, what if I decide to judge that all of the crops from Highgarden are going to stay in Highgarden, and all these people are going to starve if you don't let out my grandchildren? Well, High Sparrow says, bitch, have you ever planted a crop? Do you have any idea what's going on in your farms? Because I'll bet you haven't, and I'll bet you don't. You live on this other level. We are the many, and you are the few. And this is what the Seven is all about. You've got your R'hllor, and you've got your many-faced god, you've got the drowned god, you've got the old god. But the Seven is all about the many coming together and making change. That's what he's talking about. He's talking about these people out here, the common folk. There are so many more of us than there are of you. And we'll take what we want. We don't need you. You are just a shiny figurehead that we've let go on for too long. And judgment's coming for everyone. So Olenna does not like this because she likes being able to buy people. And so whatever, Peter wants her to come and meet up with him in his abandoned whorehouse. So Peter and Olenna are talking, and Olenna's like, look, kid, you can think that you've got the upper hand, but here's the deal. If I go down, you're going down with me. We killed kings together. So you can bet that if something should happen to me, they won't even find what's left of you, friend. So Peter and Olenna, like I said, they're in this thing together. And he's like, I don't want to fight with you. I want to play with you. So I'm going to give you the same gift I gave Cersei, a beautiful young boy. And so we're supposed to believe that this is Lancel, but I don't think so, because Lancel was already in the High Sparrow's pocket, right? I think that this is Gendry. Gendry has been rowing around somewhere, and okay, I don't think it is Gendry, but I think it would be great if it were Gendry, because if Cersei's about to be locked up, and there's all this chaos going around, and there's already this great big rumor about Tommen and Myrcella, and the late Joffrey, there's this conversation going on amongst the common folk about the bastards running the throne. So if Peter has found Gendry, and he can get Olenna and the Reach to support Gendry's claim, maybe the High Sparrow can annul Marjorie and Tommen's marriage, and she can marry Marjorie off to Gendry? ? I don't know. I just think that Gendry's been roaming out there for too long, unseen, and he's got to come back at some point. I mean, if we didn't need him, we would have killed him. So think about that. I think it would be neat if Peter has found Gendry and Olenna's going to support his claim. So, Davos, I love Davos, and he's really just looking out for the people, and he's looking out for Stannis, but he's kind of foolish too. Stannis can't just run back to the Night's Watch. They don't have enough food to support them. They don't have enough working castles to support all of Stannis' army. And so Stannis is saying, no, we may be marching toward death, or we may be marching toward victory, but we're marching, damn it. So, thanks. If you're afraid we're running out of food, why don't you smuggle in some damn onions, Davos? So, yeah, Davos leaves, and Melisandre's like, okay, it's time to trust me. It's time that we put Shireen to the flame, basically. Stannis is our clearest contender for the Father at this point. Stannis judges things based on the way he sees them. He looks at the facts. He's our Captain Veer from Billy Budd. Stannis, he weighs everything and he says, this is this, that is that, this is right, this is wrong. When the High Sparrow mentioned the father's judgment, my mind went to Stannis. And this is what Davos admires about Stannis, but it's what most of the people don't like about him. He is going to do what he needs to do, and he's telling Melisandre that he is not going to sacrifice his own daughter. Now, Selyse, on the other hand, she, like I said in one of my earlier reviews, she doesn't really look at Shireen as being whole, as being a real person. She looks at her as a problem. She looks at her as not being a son and, being disfigured. So I think if Selyse can give Shireen up to make Stannis higher, she'll feel like she did her job as a mother, like her children furthered her husband's goal, which is really scary, but from Selyse, she's already fucked up in the head. That might be how she reasons this out. Okay, so Cersei. Cersei and Tommen had a great moment. She talked about how she would do anything for her children, and he and Myrcella are all that she thinks about. And when she said, my only boy, Joffrey was fucked up. Joffrey was a sadistic little fuck, and he was mean to Cersei, but she loved him. He's her first child, and she's lost one of her children, just like Maggie the Frog told her she would. She's lost her firstborn. Myrcella is up in the air. She's trying to secure Myrcella's safety, which is probably going to inadvertently fuck Myrcella up. And then she's got Tommen, and he is in the middle of this thing, and he has no control over what's going on in his life. He's talking about he's in love with Marjorie, but Cersei is just like, dude, she threw that pussy at you so you'd be in love with her. And Cersei says, I would burn cities to the ground for you. And that's kind of a nod to fans, I think, about her burning the Tower of the Hand. And so she says, I will go and treat with the High Sparrow. So she goes and she checks on Marjorie. And did anybody else notice what she fed to Marjorie, or what she tried to feed to Marjorie? She said, it's venison, and venison is deer meat, and the stag is the sigil of House Baratheon. And so I really got that. Like when she said venison, I'm from Alabama. We know what venison is, okay? And so she said venison, and I was like, oh shit, she's eating deer. And okay, so not only is she bringing her venison, she's bringing her leftover venison. She said that she had some last night, and she bit down on that night. And so she's not only bringing her stag meat, she's bringing her leftovers. And Marjorie's just like, you're a bitch. You're just good at lying, but you have no sense of decency. So why don't you get the fuck out of my face? So Cersei's like, okay, holla. So Cersei goes to talk to the High Sparrow, and she's like, yeah, you're treating Marjorie just fine. She looks great. It looks like you're treating her well. And the High Sparrow starts to talk all this shit at Cersei, talking about, we had this young man and he was spilling all of his secrets, and boom, boom, they got Cersei. Lancel shows up. He has confessed his sins. Now, here's the thing. Lancel can only attest to his incest with Cersei, and he and Cersei sort of committing regicide with the whole getting Robert drunk on strong wine situation during the boar hunt. So these are really the only two things that he can actually say about Cersei for sure. He can talk about the fact that, Cersei and Jaime were always kind of disappearing together, but it would be really hard to prove that they were having an incestuous relationship themselves. So as far as what's going to happen with Tommen and Myrcella and their legitimacy coming into question, I really just think that this is about Cersei's sort of regicide, and I'm not sure how far exactly it can go. Cersei screaming to the top of her lungs that she's the queen and they can't do this to her. That's the same thing that Marjorie did, and Marjorie's more the queen than Cersei is any day. So this is not going to go well for Cersei. We've been waiting for this all season long. Very exciting stuff. Cersei's that thing that she's gonna do is gonna be amazing. I hope that's the last scene of the season. And yeah, good stuff this episode. It kind of hit and miss, but overall I thought it was a really great episode. Tell me what you thought down below. Like, comment, dislike, share, subscribe, and as always, question. Like I said, let me know what you thought down below. You can come back to the Buffington Post anytime for Buffyverse discussions, Buffy reviews, Angel and Faith reviews, discussions on the other Slayers, my continued Season 8 coverage, and another Game of Thrones episode review next week. I hope you're having a great 2015 so far. I'm Preston L. Young. Have a great day, and we'll see you next time.
This is not a game for slackers. There are no gimmies, no do-overs, no lifelines, no hints. You play as a team, but be ready to betray everyone to be rich. The weak of will, the unsteady, the ones who make excuses, all will leave with nothing. And if you fail, I will tell the whole world you are the weakest link. Goodbye.